This is the moment Indiana fans never believed would happen. A Big Ten championship and a trip to the national championship. Number 1, Indiana, and number 12, Miami. 12 months of work, narrowed to 60 minutes. From the catch at Penn State to Big Ten champions, Indiana football has answered every challenge. Now, under the lights at Hard Rock Stadium, against the speed, swagger, and history of the U, the stakes couldn't be higher. 2 teams, 1 trophy, only 1 national champion. Number 1, Indiana versus number 12, Miami Hurricanes. With a national championship on the line. This is Hoosier Tailgate live, and it starts now.
Raiola. And picked off! Up the sideline! Indiana! Asbury! Walking them down! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
Hello and welcome into Hoosier Tailgate Live here on the Hoosier.com Thursday night preview show of the number 1 Indiana Hoosiers versus the Miami Hurricanes. We thank you for joining us here this evening. Good show tonight. Got some information as we always do, and we'll talk about that as we look at these 2 teams heading into Monday's national championship game down there in Miami, Florida. If you'd like to get some gear at Fanatics, the storefront, by all means, if you go to my Twitter page, Hoosier Tailgate, right in the bio, there's a Linktree link there, and it will have the link to the Hoosier Tailgate Fanatics store, where you can get all types of apparel, including Big Ten championships apparel and things of that magnitude. So, and if you get something there, we do appreciate that. And also get over to thehoosier.com and pick up your subscription there. You get a lot for very little in terms of cost. When you look at, you get everything about the Hoosiers you can plentifully have. You get a subscription to The Athletic, as well as the Rivals and On3's recruiting portal, database, all those things there, with just a plethora of information for you each and every week. So get over there to thehoosier.com and take care of that as soon as you can. And like I said, tonight we're going to take a look at this national championship game with 2 teams that essentially, these are not familiar names in a national title game. Now, Miami could say, well, we've been here before, but it's been a while since the U was firmly established back in the 80s to where the U is now. So they are kind of maybe a slightly familiar face, but not totally familiar when you talk about national championship games. Those have always been the blue bloods of America, the Ohio States, all the Floridas and Georgias and Alabamas that you can want and have in the championship game. You got 2 new kids on the block with Indiana and Miami. And whoever would have thought that Indiana would be playing for a national championship this year. And it's been a season to behold if you're an Indiana Hoosier fan. And it's been something to watch and at the same time pinch yourself to make sure you're seeing the seeing what's in front of you, because sometimes, like I said, it can be a little bit hard to believe. But we want to appreciate you guys coming in tonight. Rudy, good to have you here tonight as well. You got Robert, appreciate you guys popping in. If you got a question tonight, by all means, feel free to put it in the chat box. We'll do our best to get it answered. Or if you have a suggestion or just a general question and anything from A to Z, we'll try to get it answered the best we can for you, and get going here with the topics of discussion. With the college football playoffs going on, there is a lot going on the outside of this national championship game. There has been a lot said about Indiana and how they must be cheating, right? I mean, that has now become a storyline or narrative out there, because people are trying to figure out, how did we let Indiana get into this spot? And now it's about cheating. It's about Indiana's playing with an average roster age of 23 and so forth and so on. Well, everyone would ever tell you, even a coach would tell you, you win with upperclassmen, juniors and seniors. And the fact that whether they've been recruited as juniors and seniors or they're portal additions and juniors and seniors, that is what you win with. And that is what Coach Signetti has identified as an important feature of what they look for in the portal. Now, that is open to everyone and anyone in that respect. But for whatever reason, everyone now just seems that Indiana's cheating because they're playing with an older roster. And the reality of it is, it's not much older than some of the other rosters that you may see out there. But what I would say is, you win with juniors and seniors in today's game. You can't go out and line up with redshirt freshmen or sophomores and think that you're going to, win a lot of ball games against experienced teams, whether it's Indiana, whether it's Alabama or Georgia or whoever that may be. The years of kids going and then coming out early maybe in some respects done, depending on where a kid falls in the draft potentially. So there's a lot of variables there, but I found it very interesting as a topic of discussion this whole week. Is Indiana must be cheating. And I don't think it was meant to go that way, but there were a lot of people that ran with that narrative and storyline for the better part of the week in that respect. So I did find a little chuckle out of that. Yep. Robert, Indiana's just that good. And Brad says the bar used to be 6 wins, including the bucket and a bowl appearance. Things have changed. Yep. You can say that again, that the years of trying to get to 6 wins and get the bowl bids and get to the bucket win was always the number one thing in that respect. But, with changing staffs and head coaches, those things change as well, which is a good thing. And Indiana has taken advantage of that in that respect. When you look at what's happening over the last few days, the good and the bad of the portal in terms of new commitments and things of that nature, Joe Brunner, the Wisconsin offensive lineman, has committed to Indiana. Big man, big, strong kid. And Coach Bobstead, again, reaching into his Wisconsin ties to bring in another experienced offensive lineman. And that's what you have coaches that have relationships with kids for, is that when you have the opportunity to get them out of the portal at some point in time appears, you've got an opportunity to go in there and get a kid like Joe and bring him into Hoosier land. And that'll be a big addition along the offensive line. Now we'll have to wait and see what happens with Carter Smith and things of that nature, whether he's going to come out or not. That is a to be determined, but a really great pickup in that respect. And we've seen some kids from Indiana enter the portal, very few, as you would expect, but a few that have jumped in there because there have been players brought in at a position that they may have been occupying and maybe have felt the opportunity here was not going to be as good for them as it was before they brought additional talent in or competition in that respect. So that's an interesting dynamic in that respect. Let's see. The New Life says if you take out the 5 oldest players, average age for Indiana rosters of 21 and a half. And there you go. I mean, again, it's however you want to fit the narrative, right? That's kind of what that is in that respect. Everybody can skew the narrative and whatever they want to do with the numbers and the figures of all of it. But again, when we get back to this portal, Indiana has done quite well. They've been up near the top in the ranking aspect of it all. There's been a lot of, I don't know if you say rumor or innuendo when it comes to the quarterback position for Indiana. And will the Indiana take another portal quarterback potentially in case they need one for potential backup? There has been some reporting out there that Alberto Mendoza appears to be going into the portal at the end of this national championship game, as those guys get an additional few days to declare. And whether that comes to fruition or not, we'll have to wait and see. Again, I go back to Coach Cignetti's comments about a week ago when he talked about when they were preparing for the Peach Bowl against Oregon on that Sunday and Monday when they had portal visitors in. He was dealing with some disgruntled players because they were bringing players in at the position that they currently occupy. And I could see Alberto's view on all this because they're bringing in another guy that is a 3-year starter, thrown for 9,000 yards. And I firmly believe that, Cignetti wants his best competition as humanly possible. But at the same time, he wants productivity, and Josh Hoover has it. And this is where the good and bad comes in with the portal because you can't upset the apple cart. The quarterback position in today's game is changed greatly in the terms of if you want to get a quarterback that has immediate experience, you can go in the portal. I don't know if the days of recruiting a top kid to come in and buy his time for a year or two and you develop them is going to fly anymore in today's game, especially when you can jump right in the portal and find somebody, especially if you need a guy that has experience. Now, where this hurts you at is your depth, because eventually you may lose more than you bring in, and that's not a good thing either. But we'll just wait to see about what may or may not transpire at the quarterback position for Indiana. Tyler Cherry's another young man that we need to find out what is or isn't going to happen with his future with Indiana. But that will be a topic and discussion for another day. And we'll have to wait to see what everything, how everything comes out. When you look at Indiana in terms of this game, they've jumped up to as much as an 8.5 favorite now, and over under a 47.5. The line eventually, the first line that came out was a 7.5 point margin, has jumped to full point, which I find very interesting in that respect. So we'll see how that plays out in terms of Vegas. They always seem to have the right pulse of some of these games in terms of point spreads and things of that nature. But we'll have to wait and see when it comes to some of that stuff, because at the end of the day, it's between the white lines. But again, I just found that an interesting aspect of things, of jumping a full point. I do think the over and under, it's interesting. It's at 47.5. I think that in some respects is a little low. I don't know what your guys' the take is there that are joining us here this evening, whether the 47.5 is a little low in terms of the over under, but I thought it was, and some of the aspects of things there. But again, two great defenses facing off against each other. on Monday night, and that may have a lot to do with it in terms of points being scored. Last topic here of interest and things of that nature before we jump into the breakdowns and stuff is Don Fisher getting to call a national championship game in football after covering Indiana for 50 years. That is a pretty amazing thing to hear, that Don Fisher has been here for a long time, and this will be his first opportunity to really call a national championship in the sport of football. And probably in his time at Indiana, never probably thought he would have this opportunity. But to see that is kind of a great thing too, because he's, a voice that we're all very familiar with growing up in the state of Indiana and what he means to Indiana athletics as a whole. But that was kind of a neat thing as well to see when you talk about Don Fisher getting to call his first national championship game in football. When you look at these two offenses, and we're going to get into some of this tonight, as well as some video here in a little bit, both of these offenses are hitting pretty good. Now, Indiana has been at 42.6 points per game now. Miami right there at 31.6. You can see the average yards per play, 7 for Indiana, 6.1. And then total offense, overall, Indiana has an edge of 461 to 409. Red zone touchdowns, again, Indiana offensively has the edge there. And then, again, in that third down efficiency category, Indiana right now on conversions is 58%. That's crazy. I mean, Miami's at 47.1, and that is considered phenomenal. But Indiana's at 58% on their conversions, which tells you that their first and second downs have been on point all year long in terms of efficiency. There's a lot of confidence being given to this team. Makes me real nervous. These guys are good, not arguing that, but from what I keep hearing, why should Miami even show up? Well, at the same time, I think, Indiana's dominated the headlines out there in the sports world and what they have done and what they have done in the first two rounds when you look at the total points that they've scored. And again, it's kind of taking some of the air out of the sails of a team like Miami. But you're correct. Miami is a very good football team. We're going to talk about them here in a second, especially when we start talking their personnel, because they've got excellent personnel. But when you look at this offense in that respect, it is really skewed in Indiana's favor, and they've played quite well. And also, Indiana's offense hasn't faced much adversity in the first two games that they've played in the college football playoffs. They've had two games where they've had pretty much control from the onset and really had things well in hand by the early third quarter, and pretty much all of them. Where Miami, on the other hand, they had a dogfight against Texas A&M in their first round game down there, and they found a way to win. And then, of course, their last game against Ole Miss, using a last-minute drive to get a win. So they're a team that has faced some of that adversity that some teams usually face in the playoffs, where, like I said, Indiana hasn't in that respect. And it's one of those things that it's kind of an interesting dynamic in that regard, that you see something of this nature. But the way Indiana has cruised the first two games is pretty something that you don't see much of. Usually these games are pretty tight to the belt, and goes back and forth, and it's a 7 point or less type of ball game. Well, Indiana's made teams make mistakes, and Indiana's capitalized off those mistakes pretty much all season in that respects. And we'll see what that aspect of things into that. Let's see, New Life. Let's see what you have to say, sir. Miami's rush offense ranked 72nd. Yeah, they're a team that I would classify as a pass first, run second mentality. Try to use the passing game to set up their run game. Although they do got some really good running backs that run hard in that respect. But yeah, they've kind of been more of a run first. I mean, the Fletcher kid, Mark Fletcher, the running back, he's got over 1,000 yards on the year. In that aspect of things. So they've got some talent there, but I do think they are a pass first offense in that respect. And that's pretty much the way their OC does things in that aspect of things. Then you have what we have now with the defenses. When you think of, whoops, sorry about that, guys, the defenses in this regard, both defenses, Indiana only giving up 11 points a game to, in Miami, 14. Yards per play, 4.6, Indiana, 4.7 for Miami. So very similar in terms of yards per play. And then close in total defense. Indiana has a 31-yard differential, I guess you could say, 261 yards to 292. Now look at both of these defenses when it comes to third down efficiencies and conversion down. Indiana has been both these defense at 30% and 31% on their effectiveness on third down, which both of them means lights out. And we're going to see some of the best defenses on third downs go up against two offenses that, quite frankly, have done well on their third down conversions. Now, again, that's going to come to those first and second down plays on whether or not you can maintain efficiency and stay out of the third and longs. When you get into the red zone touchdown, Indiana's only given up 35% red zone scores to Miami's 53%. And then when you talk about turnover margins, Indiana at plus 20 overall in the year, and Miami's at a plus 11. When you look at the turnover margins for both of these teams, and then the sack category, where both of these teams are very, very similar. And when it comes to sacks, Miami has 47 total. Indiana has 45. And remember, the defensive coordinator for Miami, Heatherman, was with Signetti at JMU, as was Brian Haynes there with underneath this DC for Miami, Corey Heatherman. And a lot of his mentality is attacking style of defense. And there's a lot of similarities in both of these defense in terms of their approach. And you can see that in some of their statistical data and how they match up, that you're going to see some of these things where both of these defenses are very aggressive in what they do, especially on those early downs, and both like the zone pressures. So you got to look at that and see the similarities there. It's almost going to be about like going against each other in practice because of what you're going to see across from you in that respect of things. And we'll see what all happens in that when we get to that aspect of things there. Looking at their offensive guys that you have to be aware of. Carson Beck, of course, he's been pretty darn good this year. Over 3,500 yards, completing about 73%, 29 touchdowns, 11 interceptions on the year. 159.4 QBR. And, he's a guy that I always looked at Carson as being a guy that's he's either got hot or he's not. In that Ole Miss game, he was pretty on point for pretty much the entire game. But other games, he hasn't been as overly effective. And especially that first half against Ohio State, Ohio State's defense did pretty good against them. Miami had a pick six in that game that kind of made the difference, especially there in the first half. But Carson Beck is really good. You got to get pressure on him. You got to make him make mistakes. And he's a guy that can also hurt you with his legs in a sneaky way. He's definitely a pass first guy in that respect. But if there's an avenue for him to exploit and take off and run it, he will do that. And he did it against Ole Miss and actually scored the game-winning touchdown by scrambling into the end zone. Fletcher, we talked about earlier, and his ability, 5.4 yards on average, 10 touchdowns on the year. Malachi Toney, probably the most dynamic player that you're going to see on Monday night. He's a kid that reclassified to get in to school this year at Miami. He theoretically should still be a senior, but he reclassified, and now he's a guy that they utilize quite a bit with. He's a guy that has over 1,000 yards in receiving, 1089, I think, to be for sure. Averages about 11 yards a catch, 9 touchdowns on the year. And what they like to do with him is get the ball in and out of his hands quickly. He's a quick screen. They do some wildcat stuff with him. They want to get the ball in his hands quickly and let him go and make plays one-on-one. And he's pretty dynamic when it comes to making plays. He is fast, really fast. And that's not to say that they don't have some other receivers. Marion is the other kid, number 7. He's got 740 yards on the year. And then CJ Daniels is the other kid that pretty much has been another wideout for them that's done quite well in that respect. But, in that regard, their offense has got talented kids, and they've got a pretty good size offensive line, anchored by a guy that's 6'8", their left tackle, which I don't know. Indiana may be pretty good at exploiting that one, but they've got some strong offensive linemen, big guys for pass pro and such. And you got a guy like Carson Beck that can deliver the football, and they've got athletes. They got guys that can flat out go get it. And Tony's one of those guys that Indiana is going to have to be very, very aware of when it comes to this Miami Hurricane offense and what is going to be expected out of Indiana defensively is the discipline, being very disciplined that they've been thus far on the year. I mean, they have been a disciplined team, and especially on defense. And they're going to need to have that discipline once again when it comes to this ball game and defending this Miami offense, because if you make a mistake or you blow a coverage, they'll make you pay. They made Ole Miss pay on at least 2 defensive breakdowns that led to 14 points. So again, a very disciplined approach will have to be taken against this team, as well as putting pressure on them. And that's the thing that you're going to see from Brian Haynes. Do they change their game plan because they're facing some talented kids on the outside and the guy named Carson Beck? No, they're not going to change that. But at the end of the day, you got to be disciplined in your approach, and you got to force them into situations that they don't like being in. And but they're still a prolific offense that all three downs you're going to have to play hard in, even because 3rd and 9s and 3rd and 10s for them, it's not uncommon to see them convert those at a better rate than you would expect. They did quite a bit of that against Ole Miss in that respect. Let's see if there's any questions here. Miami makes a lot of mistakes. They also take a lot of penalties and that's been a problem for them. Miami has allowed 19 sacks. Indiana, at least both offenses again. And you talk about sacks allowed, sacks against, or gotten pretty even in that respect, and that's attributed to both their defensive philosophies and the other side of the coin on offense, getting the ball in and out of the quarterback's hands and not holding on to it too long, in that respect. Let's see here. They've studied more than just one game. I'm sure they've got a pretty good feel for all games in that respect and trying to see how they're going to match up in that regard. Yeah, they're going to look Miami, and I'll show you. They very seldom play a base defense. They're pretty much a muck it up, make you think they're coming one way and they actually are coming the other way type of defense. They're very seldom going to just line up and play. They're going to do some things in that regard to change the complexion of things and, with that aspect of things. Let's get over to the video room here and show you some of this game, these Hurricanes offensively speaking. And let's see if there we go. Get some of this going here with some of the games from their game against Ole Miss and some of their game against Ohio State, if we got time in here. But it gives you an idea to kind of see some of the things like what they want to do. Again, here's Carson Beck. He's a good throwing quarterback. You can kind of see their offensive line is pretty much a set, get back and set. And then Carson Beck's going to get the ball in and out of his hands. This is a hell of a throw from the right hash all the way to the other sideline. Mendoza threw one of those Saturday or in the game that you just look at and go, what? That's crazy. Whoops. Oh, that's the one. I'm sorry. Here's one of their plays that kind of broke down from the end zone level. Carson does a great job here of buying time. And this is the one where you lose the safety because he's robbing the dig right here. He's robbing the dig. And you can see it already. This guy's going to come right through there, and there's going to be nobody on him. They make a huge mistake. And next thing you know, Carson Beck sees him. He makes you pay. Hits him right on the numbers. So again, that's a huge type of thing. You got to be disciplined. Now, this is how they like to use Malachi Tony. Right here's a prime example. They do this play quite a bit. Indiana's going to have to be careful with this play, especially if they come out here and do something like that and go, because they've ran this play so much that you got to be aware of that, because everybody's going to be situated on where's number 10. And he's a guy, like I said, this is a play. They like to pick it up and throw it. This is kind of like an RPO because they're running play action aspect to it. And then they're getting the ball in the hands and letting him go play. And he's got the speed to go make it happen. And here's a good look from the end zone of it. of getting the ball in and out of his hands. And you look at that and you see what I mean here. You know, they don't have anybody in center field. And that's why I said you got to be aware that they could do that type of play right there, because everybody's going to flow to that cat. And you got to be aware of those type of plays. And that's what I mean by being disciplined in how you approach things as a defense. They're bringing a pressure defense here, trying to light them up, and they're basically in a zero coverage, and they got the right call on in that respect. Let's see. I thought I had some Miami will swarm. Johnny Jackson. Is that the Emperor? Glad to have you. Johnny, appreciate you coming in of it. Oh, Miami will smack Indiana. Okay. I like it. I like it. But we appreciate you coming into the tailgate. All is welcome here. All is welcome. Here is their Fletcher, the running back. You're going to see his strength here, and they're not overly complicated at the point of attack. I mean, that's pretty much an inside zone. There's number 70. He's 6'8", but this cat's got some power, as you can see here, with letting them push and things of that nature. So, again, they have the capabilities to run it, but that is not their strength. And here's where this is a great job of Carson doing what we call, he hitches, steps up, finds the escape route, and then he's going to take it off and run it. And this becomes a big conversion. It's 3rd and 5 in a tight ball game. And he's able to get the conversion and get the first down to keep it going. So again, these are the type of plays that can just kill you in those situations and stuff. And he's the quarterback that can do it. He does a great job as we look at the end zone angle of all this. Kind of maybe missed the hold there by the right tackle, but didn't get called. And he does a great job of stepping up, and you can kind of see there that they were able to get the first down by him scrambling. Yeah, I do believe, too, that Indiana's defense is much better than Ole Miss. RB in that respect. Yeah, they did miss a ton of tackles in this game. And yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, because again, sometimes guys get open down the chute late, but Indiana's got the quarterback in their grasp, and that's the thing. You know, they're going to get to you before you're going to get a shot at it. All right, here's another 3rd and 12. This is a good thing here, because what's happening here is Ole Miss is going to play coverage. This guy's going to spot out, but he's going to spy Beck, because they don't want him to get the first down like he did the other time. And then what they do here is they get a hand up and get the interception. And this was a drive that Miami had going there late in that 3rd quarter. And here's kind of that same deal. You can kind of see their guy there. He's kind of spying, rushing 3, but you can see them playing the zone. And he's really trying to throw the dig in behind at the top up here. This is the guy he's trying to throw it to, and it gets tipped, and you get the tip ball pick. That's great. That's another thing that Ole Miss did a pretty decent job of. There we go. Just to show you that he's not Superman, you can see here, Miami will, and I know somebody even said this in the chat already, they will make mistakes. And here's a big one in that respect, because of, the right tackle just kind of lets the guy go, and he's in the backfield before you know it, getting the big sack. So they were able to do some things and make mistakes, but Indiana will make this look a little bit more complicated than what maybe Ole Miss is doing. Here's the big touchdown run by Tony after Ole Miss had taken the lead, and this cat gets loose. And it's not like they're throwing a lot of big blocks and such. It's just that they're getting the guys in the way, and you're going to see it here. He's going to come in motion, and they're going to do that little quick stop screen, and Ole Miss should have this eaten up just because they're not doing anything crazy like blitzing or anything like that. But they get guys moving and they get those big bodies out there. And next thing you know, that kid only needs a seam and off to the races he goes. So you can kind of see how this offense for Miami and Shannon Dawson's the offensive coordinator. He's very good. I think he may be a Leach disciple, but like I said earlier, he's a pass first and let the run be set up by the passing game because they're not going to do a lot of craziness in that respect when it comes to it. They scored too quick and gave Miami too much time. Well, that's the truth. Again, Carson Beck's one of those guys that you give him too much time, he can make you hurt. But I do think in this ball game, Indiana's defensive line has to dominate that point of attack against this Miami offensive line because I don't necessarily think they're that good. I mean, they're okay, but I don't think they're as good as some of the other offensive lines that they've played to date. So that's the one thing. And then negating the speed is getting a bunch of hats to the football and not letting that Malachi Tony get loose on you because, like I said, he's got great speed in that, and we'll have to see what Indiana does in situations with that to try to negate that aspect of things when it comes down to it and stuff. So we'll see about that one. But looking at this Miami defense now, they got some players now, especially Bain and Mesdor. These are the top two sack guys. This cat's got 15 and a half TFLs, 10 and a half sacks. Bain, 13, 8.5. He's also got one INT and a forced fumble. And when you look at this, Scott's another one that's pretty good. He's got 5 sacks on the year, 2 INTs. But their defensive front, they got a couple bookends that can get it done. And they did against Ole Miss rather regularly there in that respect. Let me see here. Oops, I'm missing one. Let me see if I can find their other categories there of defensive players. Yep. Here's the other guys on their defense that are kind of in that second tier linebacker aspect. Torrey, Thomas, and Wesley, these 3 guys are really good linebackers. And they're definitely got some boys that can play defense really good. And with those guys up front and who they got at the linebacker position, they've got a stout, 6 or 7 bodies there within the box that can do some damage. They're quick, they're strong, and they use their speed pretty well. And so that is going to be the dynamic too, to see what Indiana does to counter the Bain rushing aspect and some other things. So we'll see what happens on that in that respect on Monday night. Let's see. Miami. Yeah, their D line is fast. Our D line, is fast. And I mean, they're quick as well. Miami is not Oregon. Oregon's better. Well, to say. Miami 11th in total defense. Yeah, like I said, they're a respectable defense, and like I said, their DC Corey Heatherman is a good defensive coordinator. He worked with Cignetti, and Cignetti has nothing but high praises for him. And Brian Haynes worked with him on as well when he was there as the linebacker coach. So there's a lot of similarities in their style of defense and kind of what they like to do on both sides of, or on both defenses, that you'll see some overlapping a little bit in that. So again, going to be interesting to see with that and how that all goes. But when we come back, we're going to go into the room and watch the defensive side of the ball for those Miami Hurricanes. Take a look at them when we get back here on Hoosier Tailgate Live here on thehoosier.com. Hoosier fans, listen up. This is the coach, Shannon Griffith. And if you're gearing up for the game day or gearing up for the holidays, the Hoosier Tailgate storefront on Fanatics has everything you need to rep the cream and crimson in style. From official Indiana Hoosiers game day apparel, hoodies, hats, and sideline gear, to tailgating essentials and accessories, this is your one-stop shop for all things Hoosiers. And with the holidays right around the corner, it's the perfect place to grab cold weather gear, stocking stuffers, and IU gifts for the whole family. And here's the kicker. When you shop through the Hoosier Tailgate storefront, you unlock exclusive discounts across Fanatics. More Hoosier swag, better prices, and gear you won't find anywhere else. Ready to load up your cart? The link is easy to find. Just head to my Hoosier Tailgate Twitter page and hit the link in my bio. You can also find it in every YouTube description and all of our Hoosier Tailgate podcast episodes on your favorite platforms. So don't wait. Rep the Hoosiers proudly and save big. Visit the Hoosier Tailgate storefront on Fanatics today, because the best fans in the Big Ten deserve the best gear in the Big Ten.
If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. 1. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. 2. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. 3. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season 1 for the history books. Make it legendary. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, available in the U.S. Call.
Welcome back to Hoosier Tailgate Live here on thehoosier.com. I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. Thank you for being here with us this evening. And if you're a fan of the Hurricanes, we welcome you as well into the tailgate, as we like to have as many football fanatics as humanly possible being a part of everything. When we talk about the game of college football, it's a great, great thing, college ball, and if you love it, we want you here with us talking football as much as you can. But if you're from Miami and you're the Hurricanes fans, we appreciate you stopping by to the tailgate this evening. We talked about this Miami defense, and again, you got to give this defense a lot of credit. They went on the road at Texas A&M, held that pretty prolific offense for the most part all day long. And then what they did against Ohio State. And then again, Ole Miss was the best output of an offense to date. But at the same time, they made some big plays to get themselves in a position to allow them to win that game. And they did. So a lot of respect for this defense when you think about it, and take some look here of some of this game. And you can see here with what they're doing here, they like to do this. They like to mug the backers up into that line of scrimmage, and they're threatening the A gaps, and they'll bring one and drop another. And then in behind, they look like they're playing a man, and then they'll drop zone on one side of the field. But again, they get home with one of their linebackers. That's the Tory kid, and he makes the play. And that is a 3rd and 4. So Indiana's got to be in a position to know what their decision's going to be here in a situation like this. What is it they're going to run? Are they going to try to run the football against something like this? Are you going to try to, if you're going to throw it, what are you going to do and try to get the ball in and out of the hands of the quarterback to negate some of this speed? You can see Bain at the top here, number 4. He does a good job with his hands. He does a good job of slapping and getting by. But you can see now they're bringing one of those backers. They're engaging the center, trying to get a guy free, and Ole Miss's running back doesn't do a great job there. And then look at the over here to the right of the 2 Ole Miss players falling down on that play. So again, they can do some things that cause you problems in that respect. Here's another 2nd and 3. Ole Miss did a lot of what we call formation into the boundary, or their strengths in the boundary. So I'm not quite sure why, other than to try to really calm down some of Miami's stuff, especially from the field, by putting their strength into the boundary. But here again, they're going to bring a little stunt here to get in that B gap. And rip, there he goes, 88 out the gate. And just a basic inside zone. And I would suggest you not stop running fast until you get to the end zone, because these guys can walk you down from behind. But that was like I said, a true inside zone concept. They're trying to bring a guy and bring him in here, and you'll see it here in a second with what they do. They get a great double team, as it's illustrated there, to the point of attack. And they get home, they don't get home. It's pretty soft by their Mike linebacker there. And their safety's coming up out of control. And that's why they give up some big plays as well, because they get themselves out of control sometimes. But again, that was a good job of using strength into the boundary and running the football. Here's another one where they're going to bring the free safety at the top of the screen here all the way down. They're going to bring him now, and they're going to bring him on a pressure. So they're bringing him from different ways. And these are the type of balls that you're going to have to win, and we've got the guys to do that. When you talk about Surratt and Becker and E.J. Williams, here's a prime example of a contested throw that Ole Miss makes the play on, and they got a guy free there coming off the edge, and it was a great throw and catch. So again, that's one of those things in this game, is making those type of contested catches that Indiana has made in all the different types of games. Here's a 2nd and 3. Now, notice how they're not doing anything here. It's they got the lead now. It's 17 to 13, minute 45 left in the 3rd quarter. But again, this is very seldom do you see them line up and just play defense. So Ole Miss does a quick screen out top there, and they get a great block and big time first down there against Miami in that respect. Fernando's got to be ready to do this, because here they are bringing 4 to a side. And while they may not be bringing, more than you have to block, when they overload like this, you got to treat it as such. And they do a great job, and they get home with what they got speed-wise there. Here comes another time where they're going to try to start to overload a side, and then they're going to pop this guy out in that respect, and they're kind of playing a 3 deep behind it. This is a good job of finding the window, and this Chambliss kid staying in the pocket and making a throw. Great throw and catch there. And like I said, Miami in this game had a lot of penalties. These are some of the throws too. As you can see, some of the voids that set up here. Now it's late in the game, and they're kind of getting down the field here. Let's try to get to the Ohio State game. Couple here from Ohio State because you get a different angle seeing the all 22 now of their setup. But you can kind of see, man, they've got a lot of bodies over here. You get that many bodies there. I want to come down here and run it somehow. But they're going to definitely show something, and they're going to bail out of it. Saying is right now checking into something that he likes and sees. But when you whiff, like they do here, it don't make no difference. Miami's playing a zone coverage in behind it, kind of like a 2 coverage to the top and cover 3 at the bottom with the middle robber. But look, if he has time, where this guy's going, he's going to be wide open. But again, can you get off before they get to you? And that's the thing. They're probably going to have to look at taking a running back and trying to check, chip on Bain just to slow him down to help the tackles out in this game in that respect. So let's get over. I want to see one more here. Now, Sane made a huge mistake in the second quarter. He threw a pick 6 on a quick screen that they sat on and ran it and picked it off. Here's kind of an unbalanced set that Ohio State runs. Again, I think they're pretty soft in this area of the field potentially. They try to run outside zone, and this is a great job by their backside 3 technique and Mr. Bain just beating them at the point of attack. Again, you can see this, how strong these boys are up front. I mean, look at this cat. I mean, he's an impressive looking dude. He's going to make a lot of money. And that's what you got to prevent against them. So you can see the dynamic that it creates against this Miami defense is they are formulated on negative plays. And just like Indiana, they want to get you off schedule as soon as possible to force you into pretty much passing situations. And then they're going to exploit you with their packages to take advantage of your protection schemes. Very similar to what Brian Haynes is. They want to get you off schedule because they want to dictate the flow of the game and make you one-handed. And that's what Miami can do to you. So again, will Indiana use the running backs to help the tackles in protection, to check Bain in that respects? I think they're going to have to. And then they're going to have to figure out, okay, can we run some some screens in these situations where these guys are being overly aggressive, whether it's some tailback, whether it's some quick screens on the outside. And then, of course, like I said earlier, winning the contested throw is another thing. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how Heatherman plays Indiana. They're a pressure mindset defense. They're going to be a pressure defense on Monday night. I don't see that changing of them saying, oh, well, we got to go into a base front and coverage because of A, B, C, and D. I think you're going to see them get after it in this ball game on Monday night. Some things to the objectives of some of these games. Offensively, I think Indiana, again, they're averaging almost 200 yards of rushing the football. They got to be able to have an established run game. Again, Black and Hemby got to be a factor. Win the money down. That's that third down category that Indiana's been so good at 57%. Then I think you got to be able to throw for 250 plus yards. I do think Indiana's going to have to throw it. I do think they're going to have to win some of those battles, and at the same time, not hold on to the ball too long. That puts you in a position of getting a sack in that respect. So that's some of the things there. Let's see some here. Heard the same things from Oregon fans before the Peach Bowl. Oregon's D-line is going to crush Indiana. It didn't happen. It's college football. Yeah. Yeah, anything can happen. There's no question about it. You got to respect, though, like I said, you've got to have respect for those that you're playing against and recognize their productivity. It's just like Indiana's defense. A lot of people look at Indiana's defense and think they're small. And I'm not saying that they're huge, but that doesn't tell the story. They utilize their quickness and stuff and the scheme that they run to neutralize teams. And it has nothing to do about, how much you weigh or how tall you are. You got to recognize the productivity that a defense has. Miami's defense has only given up 85 yards rushing average a game. So Indiana is going to have their work cut out. But I do think they can run the ball against these guys, but they got to stay on schedule. And when the situation presents itself, win those money downs. Defense, it's not going to change. You got to be a pressure on this Carson back. At the same time, you got to keep him in the pocket and not let him escape. He's a little bit like Dante Moore in that respect. If he'd rather throw it than run it, but he's not if you give him a lane to run it, he will take it. Another big challenge, no big chunk plays. And that's the one thing that, against Oregon, while that game, quote unquote, got out of hand early, Indiana did give up some big chunk plays to Oregon. The big pass play on 3rd and forever when they had the ball like at their own 2-yard line. They threw the one-on-one contested ball down the left sideline. They had the one quick pitch that got, like a 70-yard run in that respect. They got to try to not give up the big play. Make Miami earn every inch of ground on Monday night. Don't give them a cheap score or the big cheap play. And then, of course, when you get them in 3rd down, win the money down. Win the money down, and that starts by getting them off schedule. Special teams, again, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. These are the games that special teams find their way into it. You got to be able to win the field position battle, which Indiana has done, not give up any big returns, so good coverage teams, and then score or set up a score with special teams. Indiana has blocked a punt in the playoffs. They did that last week, and I think maybe they may have tipped one against Alabama, so they've had some success in that category. So if they can find ways to score or set up a score, they will be a good thing for Indiana. New Life says that, yeah, that's not a bad suggestion there, trying to exploit the middle of the field when they're, rushing and out of control. Florida born and raised. Glad to have you with us, my man. As he says, Canes will win. We can appreciate that. Thank you for stopping by the tailgate. As I said earlier, all are welcome all the time, no matter what team you're cheering for, and appreciate you stopping by. But again, when you talk about objectives in a game, is just being aware of situations, being disciplined, and your approach. As Sig would say, each play has a life of its own. You got 6 seconds of play. Be fast, physical, and relentless, and never satisfied no matter what. And Indiana's had that approach pretty much all year long in that respect. Then some other things here with the final thoughts and keys to victory, as I said before, with the objectives. Win the turnover battle. Offense, protect the ball. Defense, force the takeaways. They've been great all year. This is a category that Indiana has excelled at. They've been really good with their ball security in terms of not fumbling it or, turning it over on the ground. And then I think Fernando's thrown a total of 7 picks on the year. Carson Beck, on the other hand, has thrown 11. Be fast, physical, and relentless. Win the time of possession. You know, that's a category that in the old days, you would say that was a huge category. In today's world of football, because the way teams can score quickly, you may not look at that as a big factor. Well, Indiana has kind of crept back into the mindset when you win they've won the time of possession. They've won pretty handedly in their games that done that. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. And then, of course, when you get the ball inside the red zone, let's have that efficiency of TDs over field goals, but let's be 95% of anything that's 40 and in terms of field goal attempts and PATs, so we can have a clean opportunity when you get into the red zone in that respect. So let's see. Indiana will win the I think they have a great opportunity, and they've done it all year in that respect. As just all fans are welcome. You can bet. That's what we like. Football's football. I know you guys have your favorite teams and such, but here's the common bond. It's football, no matter what. Let's see. They got lucky against Oregon. Could have had 2 big turnovers. I'm assuming you're saying Indiana there, Joe R., that Indiana got lucky against Oregon. I think that's what you're implying there. But appreciate you stopping by, sir, in that respect again. So, again, Indiana, look, this is a game where a lot of things can happen between the white lines, but you got to go out and play as clean a game as you possibly can and let the chips fall where they may. And Indiana's done that for 15 straight wins. They have an opportunity to do something that nobody's done on Monday night. Go 16-0, perfect in the season, and at the same time win a national championship. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. But I don't think we got lucky against Oregon. That was a thorough ass kicking in that respect. But so they've got a lot of opportunity here to do some things that has gone hand in hand with the year that they've had already in terms of winning the Big Ten championship, 15-0, winning the first 2 rounds of the college football playoffs, the Rose Bowl and the Peach Bowl, and now with an opportunity to win the national championship down at Miami, essentially in the Hurricanes' backyard in that respect. So Indiana, again, a lot of the things riding on this. And as I said to open the show, both of these teams are kind of the new faces on the block, because while Miami had the U back in the 80s, they've been in a dormant state for quite some time when it comes to the national scene. They've finally got themselves back to where they want them to be as the U, and Indiana's got themselves where they want to be at the top of the Big Ten and having each and every year a chance to win a national championship. And this is the first step in doing it. Just a couple of reminders. I will be down in Miami for the national championship. We're going to do some things down there. So stay tuned to my Twitter page at Hoosier Tailgate. Probably will definitely have a live on Sunday. As a kind of the pregame primer aspect of things, but stay tuned to that as we'll decide some of that when we get there. But looking forward to being a part of the national championship scene and seeing the Indiana compete for their first national championship. But I do appreciate you guys being here with me tonight. If you are heading down to Miami, whether you're flying or driving, be safe, take your time, and be courteous of others as you head down to a very busy South Florida, as you're going to have everything from the snow buddies up north to every Indiana Hoosier fan that can be seen is going to be there. And then, of course, we're in the backyard of the Miami Hurricanes. So all in all, it should be a fun couple days in good old Miami in that respect. 5 Lefts, I appreciate you, partner. Great for you guys to come all the time. Yeah, I'm getting to go. wife's knees healed up nice, and she gave me the okay to head down to South Florida. Got to use some of my Sky Miles, but going to enjoy it all the time. So getting down to see the national championship game as a college football coach for 28 years, being able to go to see a national championship game is always something that you want to do, because it's at the pinnacle of the sport, and two great teams that are always in those games playing a game for all of it. And Indiana has that opportunity in that. So stay tuned to my Twitter page, Hoosier Tailgate. I should say X. I guess I'm still caught in the old days. X, for a updated schedule on what will be happening while I'm there at down in Miami. But for sure, you could kind of pencil in Sunday evening as an opportunity. Thank you for being here with me this evening, as you have been all year. Those of you that are being here the first time, especially you Hurricane fans, like we said, all are welcome at the tailgate. Until we see you again probably this Sunday, I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. You've been watching the Hoosier Tailgate live here on thehoosier.com. Good night, everybody.